Really appreciate it. It's great to finally be here in Texas. Incredible energy. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Before we get started, is Hannah here? Hannah is the host here for this venue, so I just give Hannah a shout out for making this venue possible for us. Who's excited for tomorrow? You know what I'm excited about is that on these election days, as they come around, it is every single one of them an opportunity, a challenge, and a reminder to those in Washington who think that they are the ones who make decisions about who wins and loses these elections. It's a reminder about where the power in this democratic republic lies, in the hands of the people. People just like you, who whether through early voting or on election day are turning out to make sure that your voices are heard. This is an important thing that we cannot take for granted, because unfortunately the assumption is in the opposite direction. I'm saying, why are you still here? Why are you still running for president?
What a message.
That's because your voices have not been heard yet.
Woo!
And everywhere we've been in this campaign, all across the country, through red states and blue states, through big cities and through small towns, north, south, east, west, we are gathering people together, Americans of all different backgrounds, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, people who love this country and who care very much for our future and are taking action to do something about it. That even as the powerful elite in Washington, even as the talking heads on television, foment divisiveness, pitting one group against the other, however you define that group, we the people are standing strong, remembering that this is our country, and this election is about our future. Everywhere we go, even as we're gathering people who have strong disagreements on some issues, understand that none of us will agree on everything. We'd live in a pretty terrible country if we all did. Robots walking in lockstep, never thinking for ourselves, never being open to new or different ideas, experiences, or perspectives. We recognize that our strength lies in our unity. And that, as the saying goes, a house divided against itself cannot stand. This is the call to action that we are answering with this campaign all across our country. That we choose to lead with a servant's heart. Service to the people of our country. Service to our nation. Service to protect the well-being of our planet. And that by treating each other with respect, being open to having the kind of dialogue, conversation, and debate that our country has celebrated for so long, we understand that this is how we heal those divides. This is how we protect this nation from being torn apart and divided. You know, when Abraham Lincoln delivered that speech, with the theme of that speech, the message of that speech being a house divided against itself cannot stand, our country was facing a terribly divisive time. And he chose to end that speech with very powerful words, not pointing fingers at one side or the other. He said, "We shall not fail. If we stand fast, we shall not fail." So while we're facing different challenges today, our country is yet in a place where we are terribly divided. And where it can be easy to feel disheartened and disenchanted and like your voice doesn't matter, that nobody's listening, that you can't make a difference. But I'm grateful to be here to make sure that you have no shadow of a doubt about how important your voice is. That for all of the things that you're concerned about in this country, for all of the hurt and the pain and the struggle that so many people across this country are facing, for how concerned you are about the pay-to-play culture of corruption that rules the day in Washington, that this is how we make that change. That just as we've seen every time throughout our country's history when big change has been made in spite of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, it has been the voices of we the people that has spurred that change, that has held leaders in Washington accountable, that has sent that strong wake-up call, that message, that reminder that those first three words of our nation's Constitution mean something. We the people. We the people dictate the leaders, the future, what kind of future we want for our country. And those who we hire, those who we choose to serve our country in political office, their responsibility is not to their party, not to the most expensive lobbyists who are handing out PAC checks like candy. Their responsibility is to we the people. On this topic, before we open it up to our conversation here tonight, because to me this is at the heart of everything that needs to change. That if we cannot stand together as Americans, willing to disagree without being disagreeable, willing to stand up for each other's rights, each other's freedoms, whether it's freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to worship or not as you choose, if we are not willing to stand for each other, then we will be doomed to continue down the path that we are on, ever divisive, separating ourselves into one tribe or another. It's disheartening to see where we are. It's disheartening to see how, as this cancel culture is perpetuated, how afraid people are of having real open and honest dialogue, afraid of even being offended by something that someone else may say, or coming back and saying, hey, why do you feel that way? Why did you vote the way that you did? Seeking to increase that understanding and awareness so that we can better understand each other as people, and rather than seeing, well, you're different from me in X, Y, or Z way, and then turning our backs and saying, well, let me just go hang out with people who think just like me, or who look just like me, or who act just like me. Instead, reaching out and saying, wow, you're coming at this from a totally different perspective. I want to learn more. I want to know more. Maybe I'm not going to walk away agreeing, but at least I'll better understand. This is so critical. It's critical in our everyday lives, at work, in our families, in school, whatever it is that we're doing every day. But it is essential in Washington. Because every single day that I go to work there, I tell you, it is so frustrating. Because more often than not, there is a predetermined outcome to any bill that's brought to the House floor, or to anything that goes before most of the committees for debate. And the predetermined outcome is based on which team you're a part of and which team is in power. And there isn't really this honest attempt to better understand, okay, you're putting forward a bill, you obviously think it's a good idea, irregardless of the party, let me better understand why. Maybe I was opposed to it at first, but make your argument, make your pitch. This is what I think you deserve as voters in this country. That this is the way we tackle problems, not blinded by a filter of partisanship, but instead asking the most important question. Here's a bill coming before Congress. Is this going to help the American people, or is it going to hurt them? And that being the context for the decisions that are being made. People will walk down the halls of Congress, they'll pat each other on the back and say, how's your family, how's your kids? But when it comes right down to saying, all right, let's just sit down and talk through an issue and work through it, unfortunately, this is the exception rather than the rule.